The great hall of the Zarenthian capital was filled with silence broken only by the quiet humming of crystalline chandeliers above, as dozens of alien nobles, high command generals, and politicians from across the stars lined the silverstone walls, all gathered to witness the momentous choosing ceremony of Princess Zyro, daughter of the High Emperor and sole heir to the Zarenthian throne. Her robes shimmered with embedded stardust and ancient glyphs, her eyes cold, calculating, scanning the long line of suitors and warriors, of proven valor, warriors who had battled titans in the gas belts or tamed beasts on hellish death worlds. But her gaze ignored them all, drifting to the far edge of the line, where one lone human soldier stood awkwardly too young, too plain, and entirely out of place. His armor, with scratched modest hands, still showed calluses from training, and his eyes held no pride, just confusion. The alien scoffsome laughed, openly won. Ambassador leaned to another, whispering, who let a human cadet into the sacred circle, but Zyro raised one hand, and all sounds died. She stepped forward, her voice echoing unnaturally across the hall. "I choose him," the young human blinked, pointing at himself, unsure whether it was a joke or some trap. But the princess nodded. "Yes, I choose you to be my protector." And consort, a gasp swept through the chamber, outrage from the high command, disapproval from her family, curiosity from the scholars. Wyam asked the prime counselor. "He's just a boy his race. Has barely reached type 2 on the scale." The empress herself leaned forward, her jeweled fingers tense. "Explained, daughter Zyro, face them all with unshaken poise. Because I watched him during the skirmishes on Talmor Prime. He saved 3 Zarenthian children before reaching cover. He did not wait for orders. He did not run. He placed others before himself, the other candidates. They fought for glory, for rank. But he fought for life." The emperor frowned, his voice heavy with millennia of power. "That alone makes him worthy of royalty. It makes him worthy of trust, father," she said quietly, "and trust is rarer than diamonds in our empire." The emperor studied her. Then the boy of the room held its breath. The silence stretched long, until finally he gave a single slow nod. "So be it." The boy was brought forward. His name was Jalen, just 18 seasons old, barely trained in the Alliance infantry, never expected more than guard duty on minor worlds. Now he stood beside a royal princess with cameras from 100 worlds capturing his stunned expression. He bowed, unsure of the proper form, but Zyro simply touched his shoulder and said softly, "Be at ease, Jalen. The days that follow were a whirlwind." He was given a suite in the royal Starspire, taught etiquette and tradition, his quarters guarded by drones that blinked with alien eyes at night. He couldn't sleep. He stared at the glowing city from his balcony, wondering why fate twisted the path of a boy from Earth into this impossible place. Zyro visited him often, asking questions about Earth, its oceans, forests, his childhood, his fears. He answered as best he could, always afraid of saying the wrong thing. But she never laughed, never mocked. Instead, she listened with a strange hunger, as if his simple stories fed some deeper emptiness in her. Soon she began walking with him in the palace gardens, choosing his presence over her usual court advisors when war council meetings resumed. She brought him along when the generals protested. She silenced them by reminding them who wore the crown. But things changed when the war drums sounded again. The Actron Hive, a race of metal-blooded invaders, began burning through Alliance worlds, and the Zarenthian Empire had no choice but to respond. Zyro was to lead the fleet, and by tradition her consort must join her. As bond guard, it was not just symbolic. It meant standing at her side in battles, assassinations, political negotiations. And more. Jalen did not hesitate, though his hands shook when she handed him the ceremonial blade. "I don't know how to fight with this," he whispered. Then, "I will teach you," she replied. And she did hours each day beside her in the simulation chambers, bruises, sweat, pain, and eventually progressed. He learned faster than any noble expected. Perhaps it was a human adaptability, or perhaps it was because when she looked at him with that quiet confidence, he felt he could become anything. Their bond deepened not through grand declarations, but through moments shared. A glance during briefing, silent support after a loss, a smile after victory. Soon he could no longer imagine his life without her, nor she without him. Then came the siege of Keverin 9, a massive gas giant with a hive had set up a superweapon. Their fleet surrounded the planet, outgunned, outnumbered. Zyro insisted on leading a strike team to disable the weapon herself, despite the risks her generals objected. "Jalen did not where you go, I go," he said without flinching. She nodded, and for the first time in Zarenthian history, a human led an elite squad into the hive core. The battle was chaos, gunfire, acid, smoke, screams. Jalen was separated from the group, crushed beneath a falling girder, his leg broken, pain clouding his thoughts. But he saw Zyro ahead, cornered by a hive brood. Her blade knocked away, her armor failing. And without thinking, he dragged himself across the burning floor, raised his rifle, and emptied it into the monster, collapsing it. In a heap, the others arrived moments later, pulled them Both out just before the core detonated in the medbay Zyral. Refused healing until she knew Jalen would survive. When he awoke days later, she was still beside him, your first scar. She said, touching the mark on his jaw, wear it with pride, I got it saving a princess. He joked his voice hoarse more than a princess. She replied, and kissed him right there in front of her advisors, and aids a merit under the twin moons of Zereth their bond officially, recorded in the star annals, and while many nobles grumbled, the people adored the tale of the human boy who won the heart of their brightest jewel, the Empress, eventually accepted. It seemed to strengthen her daughter again. And the Emperor, he simply watched and said, perhaps the stars know better than we do, and so the boy from Earth became a prince not through blood or conquest, but through courage, compassion, and love, and the alien princess, who once rule alone, found in him something no empire could. Provide someone who saw her not as royalty, but as a person,